Many people believe the winner of tonight's race will be the odds-on favorite to win the general election come November.
So for some more insight into what's at stake tonight, let's check in with Christine Kilmeyer, who's with News 19 political analyst Jess Brown.
All right, so Jess, Dale will now have to go on and face Kathy Warner Stanton in November, but more or less that will be his race to lose. And it was his race to lose tonight because he was leading coming out of the primary heading into the runoff. Are you surprised that it stayed this way, or is this pretty much what you expected?
I thought Wardynski might actually close the gap a little bit, but that Wardynski would lose. So I think I am surprised by Dale Strong, the margin of his victory. We can talk about a November general election, but I'm the realist, try to be the realist. This is a heavily Republican district. It will take nothing less than a political miracle for Dale Strong not to be elected to the Congress in November. I think the question that a lot of people, excuse me, in leadership ranks throughout the 5th District, at chambers of commerce and the major employers, they want to know, will the new congressman from this district be a workhorse or a show horse? They sense they don't get too much from a show horse. They're really more of the liking of the style of congressman we saw with Jones, Kramer, Flippo. The quiet workhorse who works behind the scenes to deliver the federal bacon, federal appropriations to North Alabama. And it's going to be interesting to see what congressional style a Congressman Strong will decide on. If he's the quiet workhorse, I think he'll be potentially reelected and stay in that seat until ice cubes freeze in Hades. If he becomes a show horse, I think he's likely to be viewed as ineffective, and I think that the business community in North Alabama may not sit on the sidelines. It may not be quite so tolerant as they have been with some folks.
So for the man that he will be replacing, assumedly come November, do you think this is the last we've heard of Mo Brooks?
I don't know. I mean, maybe he would be a controversial talking head on one of the sidebar news networks that appeal to an extremist political perspective or something of that sort. But he's really, tonight in his concession speech, he burned a bridge with even the Republicans in a way, because obviously Republicans, you can't figure the math anyway, but that a lot of Republicans voted for Katie Britt. And many of those interest groups that created those PACs that ran ads against Mo Brooks, those are good Republicans who wrote those checks to support those PACs. So I think Congressman Brooks, it'll be interesting to see what he decides is his political country after tonight, because he's not going to be a Trumpster. He's alienated potentially some in the Republican base. He's never really been the hero of the Chamber of Commerce or the business interest group type leaders. He could well just be maybe like I am, an old noisemaker.
I don't know if he would consider that a compliment or an insult. Jess Brown, as always, we appreciate you taking time.
Glad to be here, Christine, anytime.
All right.